Hi everyone. Today we begin a study on the parables of Jesus. Nearly a third of Jesus' teaching appear in the form of parables. So let's talk about what they are and why he may have used them.
Jesus' target audiences were ordinary people who lived in a very oral culture, using the retelling of stories of their cultural history and ancestry for preservation from one generation to the next. Parables allowed Jesus to capture his audience's attention and imagination in a way they could easily remember.
The Greek word parable comes from two words, para, meaning alongside, and balo, which means to throw. So to teach a parable is literally to throw a lesson alongside the true object of the doctrine. The teacher illustrates this by describing that. A parable seeks to teach a heavenly and spiritual truth.
Parables primarily make one or a few major points. The central focus of most parables was the kingdom that Jesus, the Messiah, was establishing. Most misunderstood the nature of the coming kingdom, thinking it would be a physical realm headquartered in Jerusalem with Jesus on its throne.
In fact, Jesus was talking about a spiritual kingdom, not of this world, but one composed of all races. His kingdom was established on the first Pentecost after his resurrection, and he was seated upon his throne in heaven. You can read about that in Acts chapter 2, verses 29 through 33.
Today's parable is on the wise and foolish builders from Luke chapter 6, verses 46 through 49. Jesus begins by saying, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? As for everyone who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice, I will show you what they are like. They are like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood came, the torrent struck that house but could not shake it because it was well built. But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed, and its destruction was complete."
Jesus really cuts to the chase here and tells people then and now, why are you calling me Lord if you're not going to do what I say? He likens the person who does what he says to the wise builder who, when ready to build his house, dug down deep and laid his foundation on the rock. The house withstood the torrential storm that came. He likens the person who does not do what he says to the foolish builder who builds his house on the ground, in the sand, according to Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 29. The very moment the torrential flood came, the house collapsed and was destroyed.
Why would people build a house without a foundation? Maybe to save time and avoid the hard work of preparing the stone. Maybe they want to join their friends who have already settled in sandy beach areas, or maybe they haven't yet heard about the violent storms coming. Or they are discounting the reports because they think disaster can't happen to them. Whatever the reason, those with no foundations are short-sighted and will be sorry.
Personally, I thought I could serve as my own architect. My foundation was not laid on solid rock. It was quite a slippery slope for many years, and it proved to be quite disastrous. But thankfully, because of God's great mercies, he allowed me and he will allow you to rebuild.
1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 11 says, "For no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ." And in Matthew chapter 16, verses 15 through 18, Jesus asks, "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Jesus replied, "For this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it."
When life is calm, our foundations don't seem too important. But when crises come, our foundations are tested. Be sure your life is built on the solid foundation of knowing and trusting Jesus Christ. That's the rock bed cornerstone foundation. When you dig down deep and build your life on God in Christ, in the gospel, storms of judgment can never move your house. We hope you have a blessed week.